Hello, I'm Andy Brassell. Welcome to All or Nothing TV. Now, we're going to be looking back at the Champions League action from this week with particular reference to one group, and that was the group that looked the most glamorous when it came out of the hat back in August between Milan, Marseille, Real Madrid and FC Zurich, the Swiss champions of course. Now, it's interesting because the Champions League groups have been much maligned in some quarters. A lot of people thinking the whole group stage thing produces some boring, repetitive, quite predictable football and results, and would like it to return to the traditional European Cup straight knock. Well, financially I don't really think that's viable, and it's probably not going to be the case, but I think this season anyway the football has been a real boon for the competition in its present format, with some surprises coming up and some excellent football being played. But unfortunately this most exciting of groups on paper has really failed to take off and glitter as we would have expected it to. Now, Real Madrid have all but qualified from it. That they beat FC Zurich with the bare minimum 1-0 this week. Of course, they're just trying to rehabilitate Cristiano Ronaldo as well, giving him 25 minutes at the end as they prepare for their Classico against Barcelona this weekend. Now, all eyes really were on Italy and the game between Marseille and Milan, which promised so much, of course being a rerun of the 1993 Champions League final, which Marseille won, and this of course was the French club's last major trophy. Now, Milan have come a long way since the dark days at the start of the season, where they looked in real crisis. No money, a diminished squad, and a novice coach in Leonardo, who seemed to be struggling to bring it all together. Now, Leonardo and Milan have come a long way since then, and domestically they're doing fine. They're in third place now, just tucked behind Inter and Juventus, so much improved. And Ronaldinho and Pato have been striking up a great partnership as well. But they didn't play very well in this game. They started excellently. 10 minutes in, scored a terrific goal by Marco Borriello, who of course it's great to see come back from the knee problems that dogged him all throughout last season. But they really failed to build on that, and conceding an equaliser pretty quickly. And from that point onwards, when Lucho scored, Marseille really dominated the game. And the excellent Mamadou Niang on the left side of attack was particularly prominent, and really he should have crowned his performance with an assist. But after a great run and cross, Brandao couldn't finish it off. He hit the crossbar when it looked easier to score, so the game ended up as a draw. And what that leaves us with is, as I say, Real Madrid all but qualified. If they don't, if they lose by less than 4-0 on the final day, which I think is pretty much given at the Velodrome against Marseille, they will be fine for the top two. So really, Marseille's best hope, they need to win that game against Real Madrid and hope that Milan don't in Zurich. Now, of course, this is a possibility because Bernard Chalon's side won a shock win, one of the shocks we were talking about in the group stages, on the second match day of the Champions League group stages, and that was the moment where, of course, Milan plunged into real crisis. Although they now have nothing but pride to play for Zurich, they can't even get a Europa League spot. But really, what's going to be interesting in this matchup between Marseille and Real Madrid is to see how the Marseille players handle it. Now, of course, Marseille and particularly their fans feel a great affinity with the European Cup stroke Champions League, dating back to that 1993 triumph, which they really don't feel they've received proper credit for ever, because it was all tied up with the period where Bernard Tapie and the board and the club were punished for match fixing in the Valenciennes scandal. But still they feel a great affinity to it, and it gives the club its grandeur. And really, Marseille have failed to make the most since then. That they haven't had the players who've been able to step up and make the most of these big occasions. The last time they had a match like this, I suppose, was 2 years ago, when they went into the last group game with a match at the Velodrome against Liverpool, all to play for. They just had to draw to go through to the last 16. Well, in the end, Rafa Benitez and co brushed them aside 4-0, and Marseille were left with egg on their faces, and there was a real feeling that even their best players couldn't really handle the occasion. And this is something that they're going to have to do this time now. Pre-season, lots of Marseille legends like Jean-Pierre were saying, well, this is the greatest set of players that Marseille have had since 1993, but that they really have to prove it. And there's a very particular pressure anyway at the Velodrome with the great atmosphere, the fervour with which the club is followed, and a lot of good players have really failed to step up to the plate. Now, this season's lot really have to prove themselves too, and this could be a match in which they could do it. Of course, Lucho, who was such a heralded signing, their star playmaker bought from Porto in the summer, the goal against Milan, the equaliser in the San Siro this week, was the first real major contribution he's made. Of course, he's been dogged by injury a little so far. But I think another interesting aspect about this clash between Marseille and Real Madrid is to think back to the last time the two clashed in the Champions League 6 years ago. Of course, El Real were in the grip of the first Galacticos era, and it's amazing really to think how little both clubs have progressed in the intervening period. Now, Real Madrid, of course, are going back to the same sort of policy that they went to before. When they last visited the Velodrome, they won 2-1, and the goals were scored by David Beckham and Ronaldo. But in that period, they've not qualified for the latter stages of the Champions League, really. In that season where they beat Marseille twice in 2003, 2004, they got to the quarterfinals where they suffered that shock loss to Monaco, the eventual finalists. They've not reached the quarterfinals since, which is simply not good enough for the 9 times winners of the trophy. Likewise, Marseille, they failed to get out the group stage that season, and they've not got out of group stage of the Champions League since. It's a bit of a long shot this time, you have to say, but of course they'll be doing everything they can. Even a heroic failure would definitely light the imaginations of their fans. But I think certainly if we're looking for pointers, we look back to the last time that they met, and as I say, of course, Real Madrid winning both games. Well, if we go back, even both the games at the Bernabeu this season and 6 years ago are very comparable. Marseille starting very well. Back 6 years ago, Didier Drogba even scoring an early goal to put them in front before Madrid's class told, and it was the same this season, and playing an excellent half, perhaps their best half of the season in the first half, before 3 goals in 6 minutes put pay to their challenge. So they'll be looking to show they can step up and make the most of it this time. For Real Madrid, it's a case of not just getting through to the last 16, this is just the beginning for them. They need to go further. If Manuel Pellegrini is to have any chance of building some sort of lasting dynasty at the Bernabeu, I think a semi-final spot and some great football along the way is the absolute minimum that people will expect of him. Okay, well, thanks for joining us anyway. Plenty to enjoy this weekend. Of course, Arsenal versus Chelsea, Barcelona versus Real Madrid, one I'll be watching. You can keep up with me in the meantime on this channel, www.allonothingtv.net, and on Twitter. Hit me with any questions, ideas, suggestions there, twitter.com/Andy Brassell. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you again soon.